So, welcome to The Rest is Lean, to our latest episode. I'm joined by my good friends and lean colleagues, John D and Alan Lothian. And this week we'll be talking, as usual, we have a broad script that we'll shred within the first couple of minutes.
Yeah. I don't know
And
why
we'll
we bother really.
no, but
So what
but
have you been up to then, Russ?
But to begin with, this week Monday I was supporting Interact, where I'm on the strategic advisory board. It's about digital and human-centric future. That was at Loughborough,
Mm.
which is interesting. Tuesday, Wednesday, I was in a large client and I was doing leader standard work. I've rejigged a process there and we're reintroducing it for the senior team. And I'm doing coaching there. And then yesterday, I was in a chemicals company where I'm coaching the managers and training a couple of team leaders. So it's moving about, interesting. And I'm thinking this week a lot about my own confirmation biases and where I make a snap decision and then arrange the facts around it. And what about you, gents? What have you been up to, John?
Um, I have been traveling around the country to various sites and clients over the last couple of weeks. Um, I've got my camper van out, which is my office. Been, from a personal point of view, getting that recommissioned and back up to date, ready for a season of away trips.
Right.
Um, I've been doing some more work study, more assisting with work study and advising on a particular work study. I've been doing some more stuff, kind of developing new ways of thinking on 5S or workplace organization. And I've been I've been doing quite a lot of online training related to start a shift and a bit of Hoshin Cannery. So, what's the mission, what we're trying to achieve, and then what we're trying to do to today stuff, helping some businesses understand how to do that a little bit better, a little bit different. Um, what about you, Al? What you up to? Been up to?
Well, one of you may remember, we were talking about some of our subscribers in a previous episode,
Hmm.
and I've got a particular bone to pick with you, young Russell, because it was actually quite an expensive past couple of weeks. Did you remember the chap who I mentioned called Mother Sear, who used to be my supply chain
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
ago?
And he won your £150
The
prize.
£150 prize. Yes. Well, actually, he came back to the UK this past week. Okay. So yeah, we had a great catch up. Um, Thankfully, he hadn't seen the previous podcast because he didn't question me about the 150 quid, so it's still in my back pocket. Other things. So we're working with I won't mention the name, should we say, a well-known automotive OEM, looking to support for us to support them with lean logistics training for some of their associates. We've just come to a close of phase one of some work we've been doing over in Turkey, Kosovo, and Macedonia with some manufacturers over there. And as that door has closed, hopefully there might be more in the future. There is, we've just started, or one of my guys actually has just gone in and done began rather, a 6-month secondment with an engineering firm down in Gloucestershire,
Oh.
with a view to, they just wanted some focused attention really to burn a significant backlog in their order book that we've got. So yeah, build it, reduce the arrears, put some foundations in place, ready for a new incumbent that's coming in later in the year.
Do you know what, Al? You are impressive insofar as I present as an extrovert, but actually, like everybody, I'm a mix. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not. I don't socialize half as much. You are a very, very impressive butterfly in that you do go out, you meet people, you talk to people a lot. You're very good at making relationships, and I wish I was half as good as that.
You know what it was though? I don't. Well, thank you for that. I mean, this is, remember, this isn't the Valentine's episode now. You know that, don't you? We all had networks. I mean, we've all got our own networks. Okay. And a lot of it's down to perception at the end of the day, because I think the same as your good self. And this isn't just blowing smoke up each other's backsides, Russ. But it's amazing what you see from social media, which is a great thing if used correctly, and see what other people get up to. Should we say what you see on social media and what you see in real life can be two very, very different things. But I have been fortunate enough to meet a lot of people. I think Industry Forum was one of them. I think we had you don't get. I don't believe you get an opportunity like we had at Industry Forum to go to so many different plants and
Yeah.
so many different industries and learn at the same time in such a relatively short period of time. And you mentioned in the last episode, John, about this fundamentally is down to people. So building those relationships and getting the best out of people is intrinsic in terms of what we're going to do if it's going to be long-term success.
Yeah.
So getting out there, what have you got to lose? You either like it or you don't.
Well, a shout out now to a fellow called John O'Hay who does sketch planations, where he does sketches of well-known things and he brings them into the front of your mind. You talk about social media, Al, and this one I loved. He did a sketch that said, "Don't compare your back of house to other people's front of house," because everybody is curating now. Everybody's curating their content, and you look, we're doing this in our factory, we're doing this, that, and the other, and you have to remember that of 100 photos somebody took, the one photo they put online, a number of them took 100. And you have to be careful of comparing the mess, the strings of your puppet show to their puppet show.
Yeah. I like that.
That's really useful for people who are running factories as well, as in don't worry. I walked around, we all have some of the best plants in the world and they've all got their crappy bits.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Al,
moving on.
I'm glad you're there on screen. I have a question for you. Which agency did you sign to?
Oh God, here we go. Yeah, go on then. I don't know.
Because I had an email.
Which particular agency we're talking about? Oh,
is your modeling career a long-term thing or is it a side hustle? Because I got an email this week and there he was gurning at me.
The face of Subcon 2025.
Well, I only found out about that by accident myself a few weeks ago. So, we did Subcon 24, the three of us last year, along with Gareth.
Yeah.
We shouldn't forget Gareth, by the way, Gareth Lewis.
Yeah.
Who was with Project 7 Consultancy. All right. But and we had a great time. I think, John, you had to jump off, didn't you, Russ? You had to go off because you had another workshop that you were delivering, weren't you? Well, after we'd done the panel discussion. And then John, you were lucky because John and I then got waylaid for doing some interviews then, didn't we, John?
Yeah, we were the most photogenic people on site, apparently. Yeah, that's where it came down to. It wasn't that we got nobody else to chat with.
Yeah, but all of a sudden then I realised then my face was plastered all over it. And I only found out a couple of weeks ago that they started using it for 2025 as well.
Yeah.
So it was a shocking interview though.
What does it feel like to be a poster boy, Al? What's it like?
No comment.
I can't wait to get to the NEC and get on a bus with Alan's face on the side.
What's saving £350 million a day, was it, or something?
Smashing. Well done, mate. I mean,
thanks for that, Ross. Appreciate it. So, and I look forward to I've seen you guys at Subcon 2025. I'll get the plug in now.
Yeah, come along. We'll be chatting there.
We'll be there.
So if you're interested in this sort of topic, probably slightly more formal, we might have some good discussion to have, and it would be great to see some friends over there who maybe see us on these podcasts.
Yeah, I might even wash my hair for that.
Yeah. So talking about podcasts, this is a podcast, and we should have a bit of a topic or something to ramble on. Have we had any comments from the subscribership recently that we need to chat on?
I've got one that popped up a couple of days ago.
Okay.
There's a fella, and I said I'd give him a shout out. His name is Richard Prudhoe, and he is the MD of Fiberline.
Okay.
Now,
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Richard.
But they are the largest independent cushion fitting supplier in the UK. They've got about 200, 250 people working 5 days a week across 3 shifts. And he had a question. Having read 2 Second Lean and Lean Made Simple, I'm just introducing the concept to the team here. Any advice from you and the guys on what our first steps should be? By the way, he said he really enjoys the podcast and he's letting people know about it. In a manufacturing business employing 250 people in very labor intensive process, working 3 shifts over 5 days, where should we start?
Ooh, very good question, Richard. And obviously, specific answer is very difficult without being there seeing. But if you want a general answer, I would say from a senior team point of view, ask yourselves the question, what was the last order that you wanted to win that you lost and why? And does that take you anywhere in terms of can we do something with lean? I mean, that's quite a good question for the senior team.
That's a good one.
And I would say for the rest of the business, whether they're shop floor, office based, just invite everybody to send in their ideas about their biggest frustrations, because in amongst that will probably be some themes. And maybe just get somebody in your business to marshal that data down to the top 2 or 3 things that kept coming up in terms of irritants were these. And the last order or two that we lost was this, and the reason we think was this. And use those as the kickoff points for what you should try and improve. Not specific, but I'm not there.
Yeah, it's really hard to be specific without going to Gemba.
Yeah.
I feel that. Al?
First of all, I would ask yourself the question, why do you want to implement what you want trying to implement? Okay, so going back to our last episode where we talked heavily about having the need, you need to have the right need as to why you want to do it. Okay, and have that open dialogue with your leadership team. All right. I personally, as you guys know, I don't do a lot of reading unless they've got glorious pictures and the answers are at the back. But of the very few books that I have read, I would heartily recommend, if they haven't read already, they read The Goal by Ellie Goldratt. Or if they don't like reading it, watch the video, which is available online. Okay, there's actually a very, very good 35-minute short hand which encapsulates it all. But I would recommend do it the whole thing, or the audio book on platforms. And then open the dialogue, have that discussion as a leadership team around what people learned from listening or reading the book. Okay.
Good starter.
In terms of other people within the organization, one book that I have absolutely loved, and I'm not sure if you were there, guys, because we actually got. No, sorry, I'm going to give you something else. I was going to say there was a lady and someone who did a financial one. Is it Lean's Beans? Was it a something?
Lean means beans.
Lean means beans. Okay.
I've
Now that
probably got
wasn't the one I was
myself
going to
give you the
mention.
author.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. I think that wasn't the one I was thinking of actually, but that is a good one.
Yeah.
All right. But the one I was thinking of was actually one that takes about 50 minutes to read. There's also a really good bit of dialogue at the back, which sort of explains the thinking around it. All right. And it's just a very, very easy read. And it's called Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Have you read that one? All right.
Yeah.
And if I go into clients for the very first time, where possible, I try and give them a copy of those, well, both of them actually. Who Moved My Cheese? That's it. That's the one, John.
Anne Hawkins.
Anne Hawkins, that's it.
Yeah. Al, when I go in, I try to give him a copy of you on that subcomposter.
This is what not to do.
You've both given really good answers there. Can I put them together and against each other and ask you another question?
Yeah.
So John, I really like that. That question hasn't occurred to me. What's the last order that you really lost that you wanted to win? That leads to a really useful place. So
Mm.
that is fundamentally connecting them to the source of the purpose of the business. Why are we doing this? Great. I like that. And Alan, you're quite rightly always saying start at the bottleneck. Here's a question for you two. What if what lost them the business isn't a bottleneck?
Mm.
What lost them the business isn't the bottleneck.
I think what lost you the business tends to lead to really quite big picture questions, very um, 3 to 5 year questions that you might want to address through, having a Hoshin Kanri, a strategy moving forward. But there'll be ideas falling off of that which you can implement today. So, for instance, um, what lost us the order was we said we could be ready to start delivering in 3 months' time, and that's fundamentally about they wanted to start deliveries in 1 month. Our lead time is not good enough, and that might be all manner of things, but one of them might be we need to improve our new product introduction process. We might need to invest in some 3D modeling kit. We don't have a line or an area of our business where we can do um, sample runs, production runs, or spare people for that. So it might lead you to those sorts of um, ideas. Um, the bottleneck question suggests you've already got the work. So why is it a bottleneck? Because we can't get it through there fast enough. So you must
No,
have it.
no, I'm thinking bottleneck or constraint in a bigger business process consideration.
Mm.
But
Yeah. So in terms of your first question, I was coming at it from the point of view that they wanted to either begin building or strengthening their lean culture within the business. They see it as a good thing to do. It's about understanding, do you really understand why you want to do that? Because that might not necessarily be the way you want to go. If it's a specific problem that they're trying to deal with, which I think is what you're leaning to for your second question, Ross, is for me, that's a short, sharp, well, what was the issue? And then it's purely and simply, well, you're cherry picking a particular topic, subject matter, or element of lean, where you're literally just going to do a deep dive with the training, solve that problem. Now let's start thinking about how we sustain that and make that a longer term part of the business. So I'm coming at it, I always come at it from a long term strategic perspective. Have the discussions why you want to embark on that journey, rather than I have a specific problem, help me.
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah. Now you could argue one of those two things are the same, and we can get quite deep into it. Okay, but you don't need to go on a full lean program if all you're trying to do is solve a particular problem
Mm.
that's just happened. That's a short-term quick fix, sort that problem. If you don't want that to stick and continue for the future of the business, for future security, then that's a more strategic view, in my humble
Yeah.
opinion. That's where I was coming from. If I've understood your questions, then correctly.
it's always raining somewhere on the shop, isn't it? And there's always in a manufacturing business. This is really interesting because it goes to the heart of I think what. And Richard, we'll come back to your question specifically. It's a people intensive business where labour cost is a high element. But let's stay bigger picture for the minute. Um, I think the difference between an average lean person and a strong lean person is that an average lean person gets tied up in the tools and the techniques and how to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
And how do I best deliver this knowledge on the assumption that the business is making the right products for the right people with the right processes and
Hmm.
doesn't need some innovation in their process or doesn't need to consider who they're making what for.
Mhm.
I think starting with the big questions, like you two have said, is a really interesting and good place to start. I'm doing a Hoshin session later, a 1 hour session with somebody who attended a webinar recently, and their question is, look, I'm bought into this and I head up a function. The owner of the business and the founder of the business isn't bought into it. How do I get them bought into it? And my start point will not be mechanisms and tricks and ticks and tips and hacks on how to do that.
Yeah.
My starter question will be, what is the long-term goal of the founder, the owner for the business? Are they looking to grow it? Is there a family? Is there a succession plan? Are they looking to sell and exit? And what do they want? And once we know what they want, then we know what their pains and their potential gains are. And then we can start
Right.
talking alignment and how do you
Yeah.
tickle the right tickle bones.
Yeah. Where's the buttons? And then we'll go press them,
Yes.
essentially. Yeah.
But
Another way of answering Richard's question, though, is, I mean, we've come at it from a what would you do first, actually improving it point of view. But another way of answering your question, Richard, is maybe just start with across the business, introducing some basic training. And I don't mean something too academic. I probably mean something quite practical, a little exercise or two, some groups that can discuss what do you mean by lean, if that's what you're terming your way forward. Get people used to what we're trying to get involved with. So sharing the idea of we're trying to reduce the effort, reduce the confusion, reduce the errors in what we do so that we can do what we do quicker, easier, safer, making more money at it, more attractively, more pleasant. Why are we doing that? Obviously, it's for your business to articulate, but typically we want to win XYZ contracts because that means we all get bags of chips for the next 2 years and we are growing the business rather than shrinking the business. So if you can just share what the intent is and get some more of your people to the point where they're going, hey, boss, what can we do? You're starting to create pull and things go a lot slicker anyway, which is probably backed up nicely by things like which contracts did we want to win that we didn't? And that give you clues as to where to go scratch. And those people who are walking towards you going, I like all this idea, what can we do? You can get them engaged on, okay, let's tackle that.
yeah. Let me play devil's advocate now,
Mm-hmm.
as I like to. The 2 second lean community, yeah,
Yep.
which I think is making some good inroads, but also there are some missing pieces. 2 second lean community would say put some basic mechanisms in and get people fixing what bugs them. Don't bother accumulating ideas, writing ideas down. Just get people used to fixing what bugs them because that generates what our senseis would have called Gemba power. It generates
Yeah.
real
Inertia.
momentum.
Yeah.
Now, Gemba power is necessary. It's rare, so it's a great thing to have, but it still needs to be steered. Question. So, is it enough just to work on for a couple of years on creating Gemba power by getting people to fix what bugs them, which is a bottom-up approach to lean, or do you need the top-down steering at the same time?
Mm. My instinct is you go with the Gemba power approach, you get a business that is going to get slicker and get a good attitude. But if you have a burning platform, it's not necessarily going to head in that direction. So if the burning platform is we need to you make cars, you've got to move towards electric or hydrogen. We'll not start that debate right now because I've got strong opinions. Um, so the guys improving how they make or fit the spark plugs is all well and good, but may slicken you into oblivion.
Yeah, yeah. Should you be
So
making
that's where the direction needs to take. So I can definitely wear the idea of both is what you want, but most businesses are not saying, let's get involved with lean. Why? Oh, we got a lot of time on our hands and it seems like the right thing to do. Most of them are looking up the topic because, oh God. We've got quality issues, we've got productivity issues, we're running out of space, we're running out of money, we're running out of time, we need to change our products. There's something in the background. So I would say the strategy takes priority, and therefore you can focus doing exactly what you would want to do, which is empower your people to fix the problem. However, you better tell your people what the problem is,
Yeah.
and that's
Well,
what we're working out.
yeah, John, I'm with you. I'm with you. There are different problems. There is the overall problem you're talking about, which I 100% agree with. And then there is fix what bugs you is whatever we're making, whether it's right or wrong. If it's
Mm.
bugging me, I'm going to fix it. And if it's not going to cost me money, it's really interesting.
Yeah. So you can definitely. Oh, you've picked an easy one to be devil's advocate on. You can keep a straight face supporting either of those. Yeah, well, that'd be my view. Is strategy trumps um, go for improving everything. However, I could equally hear myself saying getting the right attitude in the business trumps everything, and I
And some
wholeheartedly
momentum
believe that.
because steering
Alan
momentum
said it straight
sounds
away.
like
Beat the
yeah, sounds like
inertia,
bullshit.
get some momentum.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all, Russ. Because again, for what you're saying is what you're effectively doing is you're trying to build the foundation of improvement within the business. So long term, but there's got to be a strategic long term approach of why you want to create that culture in the first place. Yeah, you guys have been around long enough to realize if we're going to make this stick, and I always come back to this, if we're going to make it stick, everybody within the organization at all levels has to be bought into it. It's not just a shop floor thing. It isn't just going to be because the MD wants it to happen or the owner wants it to happen. It's about understanding, well, okay, I've heard about this lean stuff. Why do you really want to embark on this journey? Because it is a journey,
Mm.
right? If they've already taken examples of the 2 second lean approach and they are just going out and fixing it, that's just a really good starter for 10 when we walk in and we're saying, well, actually, we've actually got a reasonably good culture of,
Mm.
just getting shit done.
Mm.
Yeah. And making it, putting it to bed and making it stick. And I would just say, well, that's brilliant. Now let's put some strategy behind it. Because if you then want to take that inertia, that excitement that you've given those people, right? Now let's convert that into what you want out of the business, and that is a long, sustainable, profitable business with plenty of cash in the bank.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what, because everybody's need is the same. However, what that is going to mean, Mr. MD, is that you are going to have to change as well. Along with your leadership team, it's not just be asking your shop floor to be different. Okay. We've all got to be different and we've all got to be aligned. So going back to John's point earlier on is communicate why you think it's important and where we're going and
Mm.
why you think why we're doing it. Because everybody else in the organization needs to know that. They need to understand that from their leader. All right.
Two, two points for consideration, Alva.
Mhm.
First point, when you say everybody has to be aligned, has to buy into it, are
Mhm.
you saying they have to buy into lean as a process and a strategy, or buy into the outcome?
No, I'm not saying buy into lean is buy into where the direction of where the MD or whoever wants to take the business.
Good. And the
Yeah.
desired outcome. And
Mhm.
the second point is, what if you're doing something like 2 second lean and relying on Gemba power with some other useful things, not ostensibly hitching that to a strategic direction, but marketing it, publicizing it, getting out there. What if that becomes your competitive advantage? Being a 2 second lean exemplar becomes your competitive advantage that draws business into the business.
Yeah. So your reputation, if you like, is kind of the end game. Um,
That's an interesting twist on this.
Um,
I think it's a very small niche,
I'm
and
struggling to see.
obviously Fastcat, Paul Akers' business has hugely capitalized on that concept. We're the company that you go watch videos on to understand had to do small improvements every day.
Yeah.
So, oh, I want to place my work with them because A, fun, B, I've seen them on the telly. They're gonna be quite slick and therefore efficient, and I'm gonna get decent quality. It's probably gonna turn up, and they're not gonna rip me off because they're quite slick.
Mhm.
But if everybody's doing that,
Exactly.
it's no longer a unique selling point. In fact, it wouldn't take many businesses to do that for it to become, oh yeah.
Mhm. Aren't
Um,
you just creating a culture which we all want? Fundamentally, we're creating the culture that allows us to adapt and change quickly.
yeah.
That's effectively what we're trying to do. We're all saying the same thing in some way or other. You're trying to create that culture. And back to Russell's point earlier on is, but that still needs a level of direction
But yeah. Yeah.
because you can't. You and I both know there is opportunity everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, there always comes a point where I've got all this opportunity, I've got a finite resource. Where do I direct it?
Mm.
Yeah, and it's that mechanism that
I I
we
think
then need is when,
actually,
okay, I can do this or I can do this. I can't do both because I haven't got the resource to do that, unfortunately. Yeah. So which one am I going to take? That's where the direction comes in, and having a level um of guiding principles, going back to your point
yeah,
earlier. You know, a guiding, so if I've got to make a choice, which one am I going to go with?
I think you've actually hit on something with the 2 second. Well, Paul Akers' business is called Fast Cap for people. He's got many, I'm sure. For those who are listening, if you've not never seen it. And yes, they're well known for constantly doing the small shop floor based improvements. It's what they do incredibly well, and that's why they're an effective company. But actually, I believe they have got an overall strategy behind all their improvements. And it's actually, and you triggered it with be ready for anything. I think it's that business is actually incredibly agile
Mhm.
because their business is set up to change production lines, to make short runs, to flex and adapt. It's why everything on wheels and being a little bit Meccano
Mhm.
really, really works. It's why a complete open plan layout in their factories with smooth concrete floors with no features um, works because it can change anything, anytime, tomorrow. All of their lean, much as it is a little bit polish anything, is all about stay agile. At no point has anybody ever come up with, oh, the best way of improving this line is we'll dig a pit and that'll allow us to make this twice as fast by standing in a pit. That would be no, 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 no. We won't do that because, but boss, it'll definitely half the time to make the ABC.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then what would actually emerge is their overall strategy is no, 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 no. We're ready for anything. It's not about perfecting a car-like production line, which is obviously not that agile. If you want to start making washing machines on your car line, it's not a slick environment at all. In
We
fact, your
used to think
next
of,
car is gonna have wheels because if you come up with a hover car, oh no, it screwed us. Um, it's kind of set up for evolutionary of the same type of product.
yeah,
So I think there is a strategy there.
yeah.
It's just maybe they don't even recognize it.
But there is just a mechanism of creating a mindset within the people. It's back to the people.
Mm.
My take on it is it's an approach which then gets the buy-in from the people within the organization that things can improve and can change through teamwork, through collaboration. And we've got this, we create this almost Borg-like mentality, yeah, that we're all in this together, okay, and we can fix anything,
Yeah.
wherever comes our way. And if you think about any business, that's the utopia that every
Mm.
business is trying to aspire to, is it? Isn't it? If you think about it. So it's like I say that for me, it's more about the people. They're creating a culture which allows you to change and adapt in a collaborative manner.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, for me.
I don't know because you look at non-profits and charities, their impetus, if you and NGOs, if you take away the human aspects and the savior stuff,
But they've
they
still got stakeholders they've got to satisfy. I think that.
yeah, they have, but one of their overriding things is not necessarily to become agile. It is to flow as much of the funding as they can to the front line,
Mhm.
um, which um, which is a different skill. But yes, in general terms.
Yeah.
Back to Richard then. We can't give him specific answers because we haven't seen his factory, and his factory would have a specific set of problems. It's purely situational.
Phone numbers available below.
However, where it's a labor intensive process, then the labor cost is likely to be quite a high chunk of the costs in terms of labor cost and overhead. So general places that people can look where they are labor intensive. Well, first off, it sets itself up beautifully for lean because it's all about people and things like the seven wastes, motion waste, defects, processing waste. It's really easy to make inroads. But taking a step back, if you're new to lean and you have a labor intensive process, you have to be clear up front about if you do manage to reduce the number of people required for a line from six to five, be clear on what happens to that one person because you send them through the door and lean dies, Kaizen dies because turkeys don't vote for Christmas. So that has to be a given.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you're into things like, okay, if you're talking people intensive, then where are we creating defects in terms of there are three types of defects: design, supplied defects, and built assembled defects. So where can we focus on the built and assembled defects? Where do we have skills shortages or rotation problems, or do we have an aging demographic in certain areas? Those are just some initial thoughts. What else can you throw in for labor intensive businesses, gents?
Mm.
We said it in the early episode. Well, it's the common thing. Go down there and have a look yourself. Because more often than not, going down there and taking a look at it yourself with your with your leadership team, they could probably solve most of the things themselves anyway.
I'd say
If you think we're building a
any
creator, aren't we? Going down. Sorry, John. Going down there, talking to the people at the Gemba. If you know what the specific a problem is, what they're experiencing, but don't know the root cause behind it, going down there and just talking with the operators or the teams, the people actively involved in that process and understanding can go a huge way to solving that problem and changing the mindset of the people.
As long as you're asking good questions.
Of course, yeah. But you and I both know the simplest one is, well, why does that happen?
Yeah.
Well, it
Yeah,
takes me back.
you know,
It takes me
and
back.
they'll show you.
It takes me back to Stephen Spear and his four questions that I've nicked mercilessly over the years. Go down in the shop to a problematic stage where maybe there's defect problems or it's a bottleneck or it's somewhere where you're struggling and ask four questions. How do you do this work?
Mhm.
How do you know you're doing this work
Doing it.
correctly?
Mhm.
How do you know the outcome will be free of defects? What do you do if you have a problem?
Mhm.
Those are four really good questions to
Mhm.
understand how well work is being done, and it leads you to all sorts of places that are useful.
Mhm. Mm.
It's funny. I listen to you two guys, and I hear the Toyota in you, which is not a criticism, but it's the standardize, lockdown, variation elimination,
Mhm.
um, bottlenecks. It's consistent,
Yeah.
and it's really
The,
nice to
the,
hear.
the, the, the
But I
trick
think
in
there are
skullduggery, John.
other schools of thought as well, which is quite
Well,
interesting.
well, give us another one, John.
Okay, segue slightly. So, um, if you're around enough people who are trained in lean and continuous improvement, and you've got enough people around you who are um, Toyota trained versus Nissan trained versus Honda trained. I'm just using the Japanese transplants because they're probably the most successful and the ones we all know about. You can quickly start to associate characters to their lean and characters to their factories. It's something that I've half gleaned for myself and half have definitely been influenced by the fact that my sensei was Honda.
Mhm.
And so he'd say some things that weren't necessarily true, but he meant them and they've rubbed off on me. And one of the things that stuck was if you want to see how to make the best quality car in the world, do not go to Rolls-Royce. Go to Toyota. And this man works for Honda, and you break him in half, it says Honda through the middle. Go to Toyota. Why is it the best quality in the world? Is it the best car? Is it the one you want? Is it the one you love? Not necessarily. It will have the most consistent shut lines. It will have the least variation in how it's been built. It will stay together. It will be reliable. It'll look exactly like the drawing. And that is because, in his opinion, and I must admit, it's stuck with me, is Toyota and Toyota philosophy is the world rotates around lean based on standard ops. So define how you make the job. And I was listening to you, Russell, and saying, how do you know whether it's been built right? How do you know it's been built in the right place? How do you know it's been using the right tools? It's standard ops. Create the way of doing it and then lock it in for today, such that the next one will look like this one, and the next one will look like the one before, which was fine. And their world is based around standard ops at the core. So if you ask, why are you doing 5S, workplace organization? It's because sometimes the spanner's over there and sometimes the spanner's over there. We can't have that. We need to standardize it. Why are you looking at a little bit of seven wastes, eliminating some idle time, some walking time? Because sometimes it takes this long and sometimes it takes that long. And we want to go back to the fastest, consistent standard ops as it's called. Now, nobody's going to argue with anything I've said until I go, Nissan and Honda are different. Now, this is obviously opinion. My training had a slightly different bias, and it was they're wrong. They're centering it on standard ops. Let them. The world rotates around seven wastes. What is the point, John San, of what we are doing? It is to do less and achieve the same or more. How do we do that? We spot the things that we do not want to do and we stop doing them. When we've found something excellent and we want to stop doing it, one good way is write it down. We call that standard ops. It's a necessary, it's a tool we use to achieve a low waste environment.
Now, John, I'm going to violently agree with you and violently disagree.
This one, I'll be.
So but I think it's because
I'd like to point out at this point, Russell has been brainwashed and will therefore be Toyoted. No,
no,
say whatever.
no,
No.
because I've never worked at Toyota,
Yeah.
but I've worked with Toyota Sensei and I've consulted to a Toyota Group company for a number of years. But I, I, I don't disagree with anything you say, except I disagree with the characterization of the Toyota approach. But I think we can go into it in another episode because I think it's
Mm.
really interesting. So
There's a
can we?
nugget of truth in these stereotypes that is useful
Yeah.
in that don't learn all your lessons from one person or
Oh
one
Christ, yeah,
place or one business
yeah, yeah.
because a different viewpoint can cause you to realize they're both wrong. Is the third way. But yeah, the real short version of Rio Sands teachings was Toyota center their thinking on change and improvement around standardization. Honda will center their ideas on lean and change around seven wastes, with about a 30% side order of problem solving. His opinion, stereotyping his business, which he loved, was best quality is Toyota. Honda is the engineered product. There is more thinking in Honda factories. There is
He did
less
say that, didn't he?
thinking in Toyota factories because some of the thinking causes variation and that's not good. Nissan factories, his opinion, yeah, these are where the athletes go to work. This is about pace. This is
You
about
know what?
building
I wish I'd
building
sat in the
cars
room.
which are not as good quality as Toyota, which are not as highly engineered and innovative and cutting edge as Honda. They are somewhere in between and built very quickly so that people can afford them if they don't want to save up for something better. That was his opinion.
Can you
John,
And there is a
imagine being
nugget of truth within all those things.
Can you imagine being sat in the room when Industry Forum first started and the SMMT decided, right, we're going to bring some of the best from Toyota, Nissan, and Honda, stick
Yes.
it in a room and create the common approach. Can you imagine?
Yes.
I'd love to have been a fly in the room, in the room
Yeah.
when we were doing that.
John, can I pull these threads together because
Yeah.
I think there's common ground here, and there's a common thread through our podcasts about capability of people. I think our conversations are quite people centric because they bring everything else together. Um, I live by this, and that's you want three capabilities in somebody, whether they are an operator, a team leader, a manager, or a director. You want three capabilities. Identification capability. Can they find issues and problems to solve?
Hmm.
Improvement capability. Can they actually solve them in a simple and robust way? Standardization capability. Can they keep them there?
Yeah.
Can they keep that improvement captured? I think that bridges both of your considerations there in terms of
Mm.
one centered around standardization, one centered
Yeah.
around standardized.
They're all valid things.
Mhm.
It's just the which one's chapter one in their book, I think. And everything else helps you support that thing in this stereotype version of characterizing those businesses.
But we can't become dinosaurs either because we are people of a certain age now. And if
Yeah.
you look at places like Tesla, where you have a charismatic founder who goes to Gemba, went to Gemba a lot, and
Mm.
has is I have a struggle with him, but but some of his manufacturing thinking way is strong. And you look at both Nissan, Honda, Toyota, General Motors, Ford, anybody will say you need model year change, you need MPI program, you need gate process, you need
Mm.
cutting. Tesla is don't worry about it. Every car will be effectively handcrafted in a digital fashion,
Yeah.
and we'll just do on the go updates as we go all the while, adaptive updates. So we have to be, and so if you don't have model year cutting, then you have certain problems, but you also have a dexterity and an agility.
Yeah.
We have to be careful of becoming wedded to what we were taught in at which I
Yeah.
think is what you're saying as well.
Mm. I just think we're doing the same thing but repackaging it.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally you said identify. So you stabilize what you've got, improve on what you've got, and sustain what you've got. That's all we're trying to do.
Mm.
You know, and we were always they were all not us. They were always arguing with each other, weren't they?
Yeah.
Which is the right way, and they still. I don't know whether they still do that today. If I'm brutally honest with you, I
Well,
don't.
they do. There
But
was a long-running issue with Toyota always looked askance at Nissan because the government bailed them out at one point out of bankruptcy, and they always looked at them with a curled lip. Honda and Toyota generally got on a bit better.
Mhm.
So yeah, but
Are you going back now, Russ, or are you talking
yeah,
current
no, I'm going back. I don't think people care now because the world has moved on.
Yeah, yeah.
But I also saw a Mexican standoff between Yoshi, the Nissan sensei, and Mixan about in front of all the engineers about PDCA versus CAPDO,
Yeah, yeah. I'm a
which
part
is
of that.
which takes us to one of the most destructive things our profession can do is the is dueling sensei. It is pointless and it's childish.
Yeah. You want to just take the one who's disagreeing with the other one and say, just turn your head like that.
Yeah.
It looks exactly the same as yours now, doesn't it?
Which I've always come back to the is if you think about it, we were just getting very, very proud on the way we structure things and call things,
Yeah.
when really what it's really about is, you go back to your point before about 2 second thing. Are you out there doing it, making things safer and better?
Yeah.
If you are, I don't care what you call it.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, if you're creating the energy and the enthusiasm and the culture of being able to make things better every day, that's all, that's fundamentally what we're trying to achieve, isn't it?
Right, so we better start wrapping this up, guys. Gosh, we're good at this. That is rambling generally on the topic of lean and the philosophy and history and everything else around it.
I'm
Love
going to try and draw the route that we took on this episode when we come back and watch it later.
We had a script, but Russ, I think it's about time for another Japanese word. What can you share with us today?
Okay, so the first thing to note is we're not Japanese, so there is a chance we will butcher the word, and that our interpretation, although first-hand from Japanese naturals, is that there's a problem with our interpretation. So please, if you hear anything from us that you think is incorrect or can be nuanced more, let us know. The 10 words that we're going to go through over the next 10 episodes or so, we've left Kaizen, Andon, Heijunka, Kanban, stuff like that out because they're generally around in the world. So the first one is a Tarimai that we talked about briefly last time. A Tarimai are good habits that people develop and practice as naturally as breathing because they believe it's the right thing to do. In its simplest form, it's stuff like, I'm not going to put parts in a temporary home on the shop floor, or I'm not going to put boxes of parts directly on the floor because I know they'll pick up crap and contamination and it might drop onto other boxes. In designing a factory, an Atari May might be, I'm going to minimize the number of objects hanging from the ceiling so that it's not oppressive for the people working there. If you look at the rules in your factory, and most people have a lot of rules, whether formal or informal, people will follow them because they fear getting told off for not following them. And if we try to enforce rules by watching people, we'd end up with a top-heavy management that just isn't doable. So there is clearly a usefulness to trying to make rules into a tarimai. People do them because they believe the principle is sound. So I would encourage people, if you're trying to enforce a rule on your shop floor that you think is useful, look in the mirror and ask yourself, why would somebody follow this? What is the benefit for them? Why would they do it as naturally as breathing? And then you might end up creating a pull again.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Russ. And we will discuss another day the merit of Japanese words, whether they should be used when you're training, teaching, coaching in lean. But I think actually Russ has demonstrated one there in that he's used a couple of minutes to effectively describe a single word in Japanese. If we didn't use that word, we'd have to invent another word that doesn't exist to give us the shorthand for it. So that's one of the reasons that even as lean professionals in an English speaking world, we can get a lot from a little knowledge of these phrases. So, folks, thanks very much for watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, depending where you get your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, all the normal places where you get your podcast. If you'd like to comment on what we've been talking about, please do so in the area below in YouTube or email us. And the address for the email is therestislean@gmail.com. It's only taken 3 takes for me to say that.
Too much rework.
So we'll see you next time. Share these videos and let's build our community. See you guys.
See you guys. Be good.
Bye.